live on Facebook. G'day Facebook, g'day Twitter, and just waiting for YouTube. Should be any second now. Sending data, and we're live on YouTube. Let's do it. G'day listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the less knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff, and I am joined tonight by Tommy Wyman. How are you, mate?
Good, Heff. Thanks for having me back on.
Did you get to a few gather-round games on the weekend?
Just the one, but it was a Crows game, so
the one that you were interested in the most?
That's the best one. Yeah. Happy with that, but I think it was awesome. Yeah,
it was an absolutely amazing weekend. This I've never seen Adelaide feel so trendy.
Yeah, I know. The eyes of Australia are on Adelaide.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What the hell?
And just walking around and just see celebrity, footy players, and Fox Sports commentators and all that sort of stuff. It was just crazy. And it just in close capacity. I was just walking around the village and I look one way and Christian Petrarca's just there. I look another way, Ben Cunnington's there. I look another way, Andrew McGrath's there. Then Jared Waitley just walks past with his kids.
Eddie Betts walks past in the Southern Plaza of the Oval, and it's awesome. And people are discovering that Norwood's a thing.
Exactly.
It's the closest. It's the closest we'll get to a grand final week sort of vibe, I reckon. Just with the Elder Park looked awesome, and it's just so good for the state.
And just so good for kids and families and stuff. It was accessible. Merch was reasonably cheap as well, stuff like that. And it was just it was crazy.
It felt like they did a really good job.
Yeah, purely for the fans, and it really felt that way. So
definitely.
And I'm glad we've secured it until 2026.
Yeah, and I mean it helps when the Crows are up and about too. So I think it started. I think that was a genuinely good thing.
If we got the weekend,
smacked, then
might have been a bit more pessimistic.
Might have been a bit different.
Yeah. Great weekend. I had good fun. I went to the 3 games. I went to the Crows game with you. Oh, to be honest, I went to 3 games and I barely watched any of them, to be honest.
Well, you can though. But
So I apologise in advance for tonight if my analysis isn't as great as it usually is, because it was a kind of it was a bit of a junket, a bit of a gathering.
The Hill will do that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we actually had good seats for the Port game over in the pretty much Saka members, basically where the cricketers walk out.
Yep.
But and right in front of Champion Data's box as well. But still didn't watch heaps of it. But anyway, too busy talking. But great weekend. All right, enough about gather round and not enough making the rest of the country jealous.
Yeah.
We'll get stuck into the show. The big thing that happened this week, Tommy, is the position changes, DPP status. So we'll go through a few of those there. This guy's generally too good for the podcast, but we've got to mention him. Ben Keys, he's a podcast favourite. He's been on the show before. Got forward status. How do you reckon that's going to affect things?
Well, it certainly makes sense. He's just found himself outside the midfield this year. I think as a whole it's better for Adelaide, but obviously it affects his scoring a lot.
Yeah, he's bloody good up forward. If he doesn't do the pressure stuff, he can snag a few goals.
He played on Sard and smashed him again. He's done it twice now, and because he's got such a high work rate.
He's one of the hardest workers in the comps.
He runs with Sard when Sard pushes up and attacks like he does, but then he's got the work rate to crack a Yui, turn around, and he burns them on the way back. So he's actually really important to the Crows.
Oh, absolutely. But if he didn't have that work rate, probably wouldn't be anywhere near as relevant as he is.
He needs it because he can't kick.
We won't get too hung up on these, but Saligo, flat forward status, I flagged that a couple of weeks ago. He's been starting forward.
Yep.
We'll talk about a few other players that have moved to the wing for the Crows later on in the show, but Lockie O'Brien's got forward status. I don't know if that helps many people if he can play back on the wing. Eventually, Will Hoskin-Elliott gets forward status as well. He's been good when he's on the wing. Jai Caldwell's an interesting one because pretty much touted as a midfield, a pretty semi-permanent role last year. I know Setterfield's coming to the side. Hobbs can't even get to the side, so Jai Caldwell can't get in the midfield, but he's probably only 1 or 2 injuries away, or a suspension this week of going back into that midfield.
And getting heaps more minutes.
So he's an interesting one, probably worth picking up in your keeper leagues if he's on the outer in a few leagues. Callum Ward will probably be available in a few leagues as well, just given that, he's a bit older and no one really wants him, so he might not have been drafted, things like that. Lockie Ash was a given.
Back to half bat.
K's flagged it was Lockie Ash season. Started slowly, but got there in the end. And then Cam McKenzie as a rookie given forward status. That was on the cards for a while, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So,
he can play anywhere as well. He's one that could have status on all parts apart from ruck. So
yeah,
but
correct.
That's deserved.
Yeah, correct. Who else we got there? Curtis Taylor, we talked about, got forward status. Will Phillips getting forward status again. He lost it last year and a few people were dirty on that one, but got it back. Kane Farrell, that was something flagged pre-season. It was happening at the end of last year, but he got defender status. Hasn't kind of scored as well as I thought he would on the halfback line.
He's one that I really like as a player, but I wish he scored more.
Port just aren't fantasy friendly.
No,
that's the thing. You might get Rosie turning up Butters, and that's about it, really.
Oh, that'll do. Until Horn France. Do you reckon? Horn Francis looks like he can score, or he turns it on in the fourth. Didn't he? I think in time he'll be a good scorer. But apart from that, it's not really.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a not a lot going around at Port Adelaide, that's for sure. Miles Bergman, defender status, must have started on the halfback line a bit more than I expected because I didn't really pick up on that one, but he got defender status, so coaches there would be pretty happy with that one. Cochin getting forward status is pretty what we expected, but needs to get a game, full time first. Nazai Wangani Miller is another one that's probably going to be relevant as a defender now, but that was always on the cards too. Matty Roberts getting forward at Sydney. He should break into the side now, which could be pretty handy.
Yeah, a few injuries really helps you.
Yeah, definitely. Caleb Daniel getting a sneaky forward status as well. So it was midfield talk early in the season.
I wasn't really expecting that one, to be honest.
Yeah,
so,
neither.
Could be handy.
And Jason Johannesson got forward status, which is pretty handy because, he got defender status, defender status. And yes, that's pretty handy. Oh, I guess forward status is always handy. His new role makes him handier. But so they're the DPPs that I think are relevant for keeper leagues because none of the other ones are too good for the podcast people have them already. But there's a few there that are worth looking at. So, if you own a few of those, I'm pretty happy with just I've got Jordan Dawson, got mid status. Just given that we've moved away from Ultimate Footy this year where we can't play utilities and we have to field 7 midfielders. Just little things like that I find it just super useful.
Really handy.
Because I've got enough good defenders, but I didn't have enough good midfielders.
Just that flexibility is really, it comes up clutch.
It's good at prepping me for next year when Jordan Dawson loses defender status as well.
Yeah, it's looking not like that, isn't it?
Yeah, anyway, too good for the podcast. Won't mention it. But something that isn't too good for the podcast is Game Day Squad. Well, it should be because it's bloody awesome. But this podcast is proudly brought to you by Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy. Basically, you get to open digital packs and get cards to make your team instead of selecting a player from a player's pool. And different types of cards are worth different kind of amounts of scoring. You can get 1 to 1.5 multiplied their fantasy score on each card. Get free packs each week for logging in, and you can also buy packs and buy them from the transfer market, buy players from the transfer market too. Best thing about it, and that makes them most relevant for this podcast, is that it's a dynasty format. You keep your cards forever, so if you get a good young rookie now, you can use them again in the future. You made your team yet, Tommy?
I haven't. I need to get onto it.
They're sponsored the show, bud.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right. At least I'm repping the hat tonight. And, I'm still going each week. Dropped outside of the top 10 this week, down to 11th. No good.
Dear. Yeah. You'll be right. You get back.
Yeah, I admittedly, I was so worried about my keeper league teams and stuff on Thursday night, catching the train in, and I was chasing a who was I chasing on the transfer market? Who was it? Sheasel, that's right.
Yeah.
There was a silver Sheasel on the market, so there was an auction going. So I was bidding on that one. That was right up against lock, and I was bidded. I won it. All right, it cost me $45, but I got it. And then put up my field, didn't think about it, and then realised I forgot to take Doc off my field while I was doing that. So I had a donut this week. Okay. So I was so caught up in the getting the train to the city and winning this auction that I completely forgot to set my lineup properly. So that's classic me. My brain doesn't work sometimes, but anyway, that's my hard luck story for the week. Still in the top 11, so it's fine. All right, create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy for free with Game Day Squad. Go to gamedaysquad.com.au to join in all the fun there. Let's get stuck into the show, you reckon?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, let's get into the breakout tracking for this week. The most relevant names, up-and-coming names of the week, and guys that generally look like they're on the rise. Liam Baker is the first one I want to talk about. He scored 122 points. I'm going to make him too good for the podcast, I think. Do you reckon that's a fair assessment?
That's fair, yeah. He can score, can't he?
Yeah, and that whole Richmond backline has been pretty fantasy-friendly this year. I don't know if it's Short being out. I know, but Rioli's been really good as well. Vlosten's been kind of doing his thing, around the mark, you know what I mean? But Baker's, given that he's got forward status as well, he's just taking his game to the next level.
Absolutely.
You happy to make that one too?
Yeah,
for the
no,
podcast?
we'll draw a line through him, but super player, really good.
Absolutely. Now, I didn't watch too much of the Hawthorn game, super hungover on Sunday, but and had to kind of make up for parenting responsibilities. But James Warple had 114 points. Did you see much of this game?
Yeah, I did a bit, and I guess Will Day being out sort of helped Warp, but he's always been able to do this. Like
he can accumulate if he's got the opportunity. What's your gut feel long term if Will Day comes back in?
I don't like it, but because Daisy's he'd be up there with leading their best and fairest, and he looks really good as a midfielder, and so I think the writing might be on the wall for Warple, but he can do stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's just a shame, I guess.
There was interesting comments during the week saying that Sam Mitchell was trying to find the balance between him and playing forward.
Yeah.
So I think he's in the best 22. Like I think he's quite safe.
He's good enough. Yeah, I agree. Actually,
I just don't think the scoring is going to be at this level when they're with a full strength side. Yeah,
no, I agree. Not when he's on limited mid minutes. And look, like I said, when Day comes back and they've got McKenzie back in there,
that's it.
They're trying to get games into Ward, and I think Conor McDonald will push up onto a wing in time, more so than half forward. And they're just better ball users than Warple, to be honest.
Warple will pop every now and then when they rest someone, that sort of stuff. But I think, the lucky thing is we might get forward status out of him eventually as well.
Unless someone like Newcombe goes down or with an injury or something like that, I think.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to Jacob Hopper. I'm going to make this too good for the podcast. He really should be a back to the podcast candidate. But anyway, from last year. But 111 points. He just goes at this kind of level. Like he'll put out scores of this. He'll go around that near 100 mark. I reckon 95 to 105 kind of mark for the season. So happy to make Jacob Hopper too good for the podcast. You didn't head to Nord on the Friday, did you?
I didn't. I sort of wish I did.
Yeah, I watched a bit of this game. Jack Lukosius is a player I want to talk about. 111 points. He just was marking everything early on. He only kicked one goal. So
early on he was absolutely dominant.
Yeah,
and
I think
I don't think he's dominant. I don't think
something.
I've seen him dominate like that since he's been in the AFL system. He did it all the time at junior level, but just marking everything, setting up the play from sort of around the arc, and he was awesome. He can do this though. Like he's a freakish talent. It's just whether there's the consistency in his game.
Yeah, the thing I take away from this is you get a key forward that can score 111 points with only kicking one goal. Well, it doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't, and it's because of his. He does have a high work rate, and he's capable of sort of Nick Rewell-esque, sort of getting right up the ground, taking his marks and coming back the other way. Yep. But it's really encouraging to see that he can score that well without needing a big bag of goals. Yeah, and I think having a bit of support with King up there as well, like it really helps him out to kind of get up that ground a little bit more. They still run him up to, like he'll kick a goal and still line up on the wing on the next contest, stuff like that. So that sort of stuff happens all the time with him as well. Don't think he's going to be 100 plus averager ever like Rewell was, but I reckon he could be one of the he could be the best key forward in the game, in terms of fantasy. Yeah, I would agree. I think he has the capacity
70,
to score.
80, like a Jeremy Cameron type thing eventually, could actually get to that level, I reckon. Even though Cameron's going fucking huge this year. But anyway, one of your boys, the Fog, 5 goals. Was that his first game back this week?
It was.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks off with a little knee.
5 goals, 109 points. You'd be pretty happy with that.
God, he's good, isn't he?
He's kind of like Lukosius, but kind of not. I think he can be I think he's going to be a good averaging key forward as well, but it's going to be 3 goals. He'll kick bags.
I was just going to say, I think he does rely on goals more so than way more. Someone like Luko. But I mean, he'll be up there for the Coleman this year. 5 goals on return. I think he hit 3 in the last. Sort of junked it up a bit. Any player that you can he's one of those players that you can really back their leg when they have a shot, you know what I mean? Absolutely, so, you feel safe, don't you?
And even Tex is pretty similar like that. He's been a pretty good fantasy scorer throughout his career as well. He's the perfect mould to take over. I think Tex might be done by the end of the year as well, so there should be a lot more opportunity. Probably, if not this one, then definitely next year. One, which is a bit sad, end of an era. So but anyway, I think Fog is one you can pick up now. I think Fog's he's gone past Tex, so that's been really good. That's really pleasing from a Crows perspective. Yeah, and if the Crows are on the rise, getting a good supply to him and stuff like that, then absolutely should be trending upwards definitely. Chase Jones, 108 points, back-to-back tons. I think that is. So he's got a bit of a new role on the wing. What did you make of his game? Yeah, so came on as a sub in the showdown and made a real big impact straight away, which is awesome. And he sort of hasn't stopped since then. Playing on a wing now, he's attacking the ball super hard. He's always been he's not a big bodied. Yeah. But he's always attacked the ball super hard. That's what I noticed on Thursday. Yeah, and now he's getting the confidence in himself and he's actually winning more of the ball, because as a junior he was
really prolific. Admittedly, played a lot of games in Tassie, but that was his one of his big strengths.
He just looked hungrier than his opponent, that's for sure.
And I think the next step will be using the ball a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just is. He looks really hungry, doesn't he?
Would you say he's playing for his career a bit as well?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I think so.
It's probably doing him the world of good that
him
kind of pressure.
and McHenry, really the pressure. They're both first round picks.
Yeah.
The pressure's really on, and they've both performed really, really well.
Yeah, good to see.
Nix would be wrapped with that.
Yeah, and given that he's got that role on the wing, I know he's been thrown around a bit. I think he's got defender status in.
Yeah. Last year he spent a lot of time as a sort of lockdown defender.
Yeah.
But I think the wing looks like his spot. I think that's been a problem with Chase, is that because he can play anywhere. Although he can play anywhere, he hasn't really nailed down one spot, and I think the wing might be his.
It fits him. Just push Soligo probably down a little bit.
It probably pushes Soligo down, and the other thing that should push him down is Scholl's form. He's been pretty good too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
So, and it probably means Mitch Hinge plays more defence.
Which is probably good for him, really.
Which could be good for him, I agree.
So a lot of things fall into place for a lot of Crows players, with Hinge, with Dawson going into the midfield.
Yeah.
It's kind of affecting, it's giving everyone a positive bump. It's kind of working
and
pretty well.
And I think, to be honest, the real reason behind this is the form of Max Michaelani.
Absolutely.
He's allowed them to push Dawson up, and to get Chase Jones on a wing and whatnot, and it sort of allows for all of that, facilitates all that. So it is sort of falling into place for guys like Chase Jones.
Yeah, I was saying the other night that Michael Aney is Thursday night when I was just talking shit all game. Essentially, just saying he's probably one of the most underrated, probably the most underrated draft pick of last year. The way he's kind of come on, and even from a fantasy perspective, he's good in 60s most weeks. Especially in the classic formats. You're pretty into that.
I knew he'd be good. But I didn't know he'd be this good this early and score as well as he is. Not that he's setting the world alight, but and he's a rising star for this week. So that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. More so because of his first 5 weeks, more so than last round.
Yeah, that's it.
The bullet past the Tex inside 50 was
that was awesome.
Sensational.
Moving on to Connor Nash. He was tagging Tom Green on the weekend, who's unfortunately been rubbed out this week, but he scored 104 points in doing so. We had a question later on, is he worth owning? And I think he is, just for streaming or maybe loopholing on, starting on the bench.
Yeah.
He's one I picked up really late in our draft just because I found the midfielders, personally for my team as well, just the midfielders dried up in our draft really quickly. And I just know he's a player that's going to play each week. And he can pop every now and then.
He looks like he's got really good... He's almost one that you think could miss out, but I think he's got pretty good job security in there.
Basically, him and McGuinness are the two nullifiers, the callers, the taggers, whatever you want to call them. But we saw McGuinness go out the start this week, so maybe Nash is the number one guy in there these days. And if that's the case, he could get a bit of a bump if he's doing the sole tagging role and not splitting it or not sharing it type thing. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on Connor Nash because he's in the midfield and he's doing the right things for his team. Wayne Miller, to be honest, don't remember a lot about his game, but had 94 points. What was your make of it?
He got more of the ball this game than he has in the past. I think the thing with Wayne is the bloke missed 2 years of footy, so he's injuries has been the only thing stopping him from being one of the game's best halfbacks, in my opinion. And we're finally seeing him sort of build that consistency and I think confidence in himself again.
Yep.
But 94 is a great return from him. I probably wouldn't expect it every week, but he's definitely one of the better ball users across halfback. So I think a decent average is you could expect that from him.
I'd like to see him do it again, back it up. But there's definitely got potential. He always has.
Always has. It's never been a question of potential with him. It's just all about consistency.
Yeah, if he does again next week, he'll have my attention, I reckon. A player that's always had my attention, and it's good to see him finally put up a good score, that's Braden Campbell, 91 points. This game was a bit weird. Just every halfback flanker or everyone in the defence really for Sydney just kind of went big. Lloyd, I think, had 99 or 98.
Blakey.
And then Blakey had 94 or something. And then Braden Campbell also had 91. So they're three kind of rebounding, halfbacks. All scored pretty well. So he's a kid that I've just always had in high regard, and I think it's just good to see him finally get a game. He's only going to get better, I think. Yeah,
it's funny because Errol Goulden was in the same draft, and
you're right. Taken after him.
Campbell got picked way before him.
Yeah, that's right.
Well before him.
Yeah.
And it's actually good to see, and obviously we know what Goulden's done, but it's good to see Campbell starting to hit his stride as well.
Was Campbell always touted for that halfback role? Is he more of a midfielder as a junior?
More of a midfielder.
Yeah, okay. So it probably took him a while to redevelop.
But could always play halfback because he's such a nice kick.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was the
so both Goulden and Campbell dribble elite kicks.
Yeah.
So,
good
he's
drafting.
always been able to play that role. He just played more as a midfielder.
Yeah,
His
absolutely.
juniors.
Braden Campbell, we did that one. Jermaine Jones for West Coast. Now, it's just good to see him get some consistency in a role on that half-back line. I think Hunt has been really good for him just playing on that wing. Then he just goes into defence and kind of racks up back there. The one thing I've kind of flagged, and I heard he had a bit of a groin complaint later, but Elliot Yeo is still playing really low time on ground. I'm not sure if he's injured again. I think I might have heard that somewhere today, either that or mistaken.
Probably.
Yeah, know him. But that's the only thing I'm flagging, because I was worried about Witherden coming back this week, and then I was like, no, that didn't really affect him. But then, yeah, Yeo, it depends where Yeo plays as well. If he ever gets fit, like he might just go back in the midfield. I don't really know, but I think you can ride the Jermaine Jones wave at the moment, and it's positive to see like these guys scoring well in games where they just got flogged as well.
Yeah, the thing about him is I think they genuinely look for him coming out of half back, which is really a positive sign. Like he's obviously
he's a line breaker.
Yeah, he is. He's got speed and he uses the ball pretty well. So they clearly have, targeted him when they exit defensive 50. So I think that's encouraging.
Yep. Moving on to Ned Reeves at Hawthorn. He had 86 points. Just actually good to see one of those rucks put up a decent score for a change. Again, I didn't see a heap of this game, but I know that, he just seemed to get a few kicks and touches around the ground, I think, and to go with his kind of hit-outs that he's generally pretty good with in winning, because he's just given he's a freak of nature in terms of height. I think he's the equal tallest player in the competition.
Massive.
So I only think Mason Cox, I think, is the same size as him. So, just good to see one of these Hawthorn rucks actually do something. Would I expect it each week? Absolutely not. Probably should be a tip of the cap. But given that Ned Reeves is my boy over Meek and Lynch, because that's what Dossie and Kays love, and Reeves is my boy, I felt like I should get him in the podcast this week. So, well done, Reevesy. Lockie Ash. Too good for the podcast, I think. You agree?
Yeah, 100%. Especially, that's his spot across half-back.
Yeah,
now,
it's just so good
to
that
see
they
him.
finally put him in that spot as well. Like,
it's taken, how many years?
Well, I think he got in the first season, second season, they didn't, and then they put him straight back there. And
he started there, I think, and then got moved around, and half-back's his spot. They've got a good half-back line.
Absolutely, with coming back there too. It's funny, like, it's like he fit the mould for the third-year breakout perfectly. Like, it's just he knew it was going to happen.
Absolutely.
I felt it was anyway.
No, he is a gun. Ash.
Yeah, and like
we haven't seen the best of him either.
No, absolutely not. And good. And then I think Whitfield's back there as well too. So it's kind of good that they're all scoring pretty well back there.
That's a bloody good halfback.
Yeah, that's another one that got DPP this week, but obviously too good for the podcast. Sam Draper, 82 points. Now is he back? Was he ever there? I don't really know. We brought him off for a while.
He kicked 3, I think. So
he's playing more forward.
Probably elevated his score a little bit.
Having Phillips, that's the thing. Having Phillips in there is not great, I think, for rucking.
Yeah,
like for his ruck scores. And can we rely on him to kick 3?
No, you can't. I think he'll kick more goals this year.
Yeah,
but I don't think
he only kicked one last week, and I think one goal last week, and he turned up. So I don't know. Yeah, it depends who gets the line share of the ruck, but I felt like he was more forward this week than Phillips was.
Yeah, he definitely was more forward.
Yeah. So the watch is still on, but it's encouraging for owners anyway. Like, people have probably been waiting for him to pop a little bit and do some things.
If you own him, you'd be pretty happy with that. With where he sits at the moment.
Absolutely.
Especially with Peter Wright out.
Mitch Hinge. We talked about him before, but that I reckon that on the weekend was the solid I've seen the Crows' defence in like the last 3 years.
Yeah, structurally they look really good.
They were chopping everything off, rebounding well, and just using the ball well as well. So everyone really played their part super well. Hinge is one of them. We talked about Dawson going back into the midfield. Really benefits Mitch Hinge as well. Like, I think he can go that high 70s, low 80s average if everything falls into place this season.
Yeah, I see that as well.
And you reckon he's locked in your best 22? He's played every game.
He has. Yeah. I think he's locked in the best 22 because he's quite flexible. He can lock down, but then he can be more attacking as well. So I think he sort of can play on smalls and talls too.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty safe in the best 22.
Yeah, I think so too. And always another one that's played that fantasy game pretty well. It's good just to see him finally do it. Hunter Clark, 78 points. Like, it's not bad, but do we want to see more from Hunter Clark at this stage of his career?
Yeah, he's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like, they're playing some very fantasy-friendly football as well, St Kilda. I think we established this last week. Kays and I went through the numbers. They are like the best scoring fantasy side in the competition. Now, admittedly, they had a pretty easy draw to start off with. It's probably their first real test this week. And, they held their own, really, in the end. They went down by a goal.
Yeah, they're probably just beaten for a touch of class, maybe.
Yeah.
But they'll be around the mark. They look pretty good.
With Jack Steele coming this week, I'm not sure if that hurts Clark a bit, pushes him further back in the midfield.
Probably does, yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about this last week. Like, it's really good to see Hunter Clark getting games, consistent run, not getting injured. But I don't know if I'm being too harsh. Do you think I'm being too harsh by wanting more?
No, I remember watching him in his juniors, and he was a gun. Him and Caulfield got picked back to back.
Caulfield's the one that's just fallen off the radar. I know he's coming back from.
Imagine if those two lived up to their potential.
Yeah,
you'd be looking at top 4 for St Kilda.
And I still have faith that they will. It's just, I don't know. Is it 4th or 5th year for Clark and Caulfield?
Oh, it'd be up there.
Fifth,
I reckon they were drafted 2017.
Yeah,
so
be waiting for it. Anyway. 70 it's not a bad score. That's the thing. So it's okay. Given he's got, does he have he doesn't have defender status, does he, this year? I think it's just mid only.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of an issue. And Mitch Owens is a player I absolutely love. Still probably didn't have his best game in a game that they lost, and still scored 77 points, and he's averaging well in the 80s at the moment. I'm not sure if I can make him too good for the podcast just yet, but he's not far off.
No, I'd hold off on that at the moment. But yeah, geez, he's playing really, really well. It looks like he's really benefited from Ross Lyon. And the way they play just falls into his hands. Wait till he plays more midfield minutes. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, no,
really good player.
We'll move on to some rookies. These are the guys we just have not rookie price like in AFL Fantasy Classic, just guys that have played only a handful of games or whatever. But Mateus Philippou starting to get a few more midfield minutes around the ground. He seems to be just playing higher up the ground as well, like away from goals. And
I think they've just pushed him up.
Yeah.
Maybe looks like he's playing more on the ball.
Yeah, I know he got 3 centre bounces, I think. He got a few last week
that's
as well.
Great.
So.
It's good to see because he can do that, and I think he's played his best footy as a midfielder. But
we've immediately seen his scoring go up though as well. 64 last week and then 70 this week. It's been good.
Oh, he's an absolute gun.
Yeah.
It's great to see him playing so well in the big stuff. So because I guess there was a bit of pressure on him because he did talk himself up a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's actually following it up. He's a gun, so good on him.
It's interesting that players like that can talk themselves up or whatever, but
he's actually following it up. So good on him.
Player refuses an ice bath and goes home. He gets booed all the time. So I don't know, but we won't go into that. I've already had a big enough crack at Kane Corns on Twitter. For
another. Had
enough crack at Kane Corns because I believe it's his fault. But anyway, Bailey Humphrey. Look, we've seen 2 games from him now. Not scoring the best, but he's a player that I just think he looks a lot better than his scoring suggests at the moment. You're a rookie expert, so what do you think of Bailey Humphrey?
Yeah, I just hope that Gold Coast leave him in the side. Like, obviously they're not getting the wins at the moment, but
that's Stewie Jew's fault. So it's all good.
I hope they just give him a good run because obviously 29 points isn't great, but yeah, he genuinely looks better than that. I think Gold Coast, they're not going to be playing finals again. Let's be honest. So get games into these guys. He's a really good player, sort of a mid-forward type. I hope they stick with him for a decent amount of time. Don't just give him 1 week here and there.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like I said, looks way better than his scoring. There was just a few good things that he did. I think, did he kick a goal?
He had a couple of good passages, a couple of good moments, and they won't reflect massively on the score sheet, but, he's better than what that suggested.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Cadman also debuted. Pretty standard for a young key forward, do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure really what we could expect from him. He did actually play a lot of wing as a junior. Well, a little bit of wing as a junior, but not a lot. So I was interested to see what role they'd play him in. But yeah, as a forward, on debut, he kicked a goal, which is good. Yeah, but like Humphrey, I hope they stick with him because he's a pick one for a reason. So get games into him.
It did. I think. Did Himmelberg go back again in this game?
Well, they threw him back late because he touched it on the line.
So I missed the end of this game, but that's right. Yeah, I do remember people talking about that. So
but he also he was a forward. He took a great grab, which kicked, hit the lead.
Did it at both ends.
Did everything.
Yeah, the swingman. But that could be someone if Cadman does lock down a spot that could free him up with Hogan in there as well. So one to monitor. If they do keep playing Cadman, they might opt to use him as Himmelberg as a swingman again. So yeah, just keep that in your top pocket, I guess. And Ned Long and Seamus Mitchell. I think Seamus Mitchell took a few kick-ins, I reckon. And Ned Long, what do you make of his game?
Yeah, decent. I think 63 is a pretty good score from Ned Long. So
debut.
And Mitchell as well. That's pretty decent. Good start. So nice start to their careers.
Yeah, I think
Mitchell is a nice kick. So I didn't see heaps of him.
Yeah. I didn't really notice either of them, but I only watched the first half anyway, so that didn't really help.
But that's good scoring, especially given their lack of games so far. So
Yeah, keep an eye on them too as well. Could be something there for the future. Guys that have come back to the pod this year, Braden Maynard, sorry. He's the only one I've got on my list this week. But he looks like he's kind of back to... he's never been a huge scorer, but he's always been like a consistent 70,
it's not
80.
really his game, is it? It's not.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a massive scorer. He's more of an... he's probably the definition of an impact player.
Yeah,
to be quite honest.
He's got a good kick,
Every time he goes... he does. He's a really good user.
Yeah.
Collingwood have got heaps of good users, but he's one of them. I don't think he's going to be a massive scorer. Like you said, he never sort of has been. But
if you can, he has been an 80 average before. That's the thing,
Yeah.
and that's enough to make you too good for the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think he can probably get back to that, but it won't be much more than that.
No, I think his ceiling. There's others with much higher ceilings.
Yeah.
But he's a damn good player.
And he's the type of player that plays his role more so than being me.
Yep.
Like he's been touted
Yep.
as like a future captain as
Yeah,
well.
super
like,
role
type
on,
thing,
or task orientated, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there was even talking of becoming captain this year before Darcy Moore got it. So
He does look
Yeah.
like a lead by example type operator.
Absolutely. We'll get stuck into more of the show in a second, but I'll just take a moment to thank our members. If you want to support the show, you can do so by becoming a member of the podcast. Managed to meet one of the members on the weekend at the gather round, Paddy. So if you're listening, mate, thanks for hanging out on the weekend, having a few beers. Few was probably an understatement, but anyway.
Hopefully he remembers you, man.
Yeah, I think he
would.
Yeah, I think he tweeted something
That's
about
good.
it.
That's
Took a
good.
shocking photo of me and Dossie well and truly
Oh, dear.
ticking. So, yeah. But anyway, if you do sign up as a member, you'll get sent a bounce attendance numbers. So look at some trends there, some kick-in numbers, state league fantasy scores. You also get access to the breakout tracker, which is getting updated a lot earlier in the week this year, thanks to some simplifying of the code by me. So it's made my life a lot easier. So you can check all those out on our website if you become a member, and each week we do read out some gold members. Now these names actually look quite easy to pronounce, so I'm going to throw it over to you, Tommy.
Yeah,
Do you want to read
easy.
out the gold members'
Let's
names?
go. So thank you to Kane Russell, Ryan Scully, Peter Newman, Jason Beck, Andrew Kenny, Steve Canton, Ashley Woods, Craig Mackay, Peter Stone, and Michael Hunt.
I think that one's Mackay, only because
Mackay?
I know him.
Okay.
I would have said Mackay otherwise as well. And Michael Hunt actually put his name down as Mike. So don't read that in full. But
We'll go Michael.
I changed it to Michael, so we didn't have to say that on the podcast. But thanks heaps for those.
You've saved me there. That could have been horrible.
I know. I don't think it's his real name somehow. I think he just wants us to read it out in the podcast, but we're too good for you there, Mike. But anyway, if you can't sign up as a member, that's all good. You can support us in other ways. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, retweet our stuff, share it around. All that sort of stuff helps as well. All right, we're going to move on to some consistent players. These are guys that probably never going to be too good for the podcast, but are super handy to own. Tom Papley, what a performance. Did you watch the game?
How good was he? Yeah, I mean, that was back to vintage Papley, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just love how hard he celebrates as well.
Oh,
His kicks
he
are going,
loves
so-
it. No one loves
Yeah.
a goal more than Mateus Philippou likes a goal,
Yeah, he
but
does.
Papley
Yeah.
set the bar pretty high.
So he kicked 6 goals in this game. I mean, anytime someone kicks 6 goals, they're going to score pretty well. If Sydney are going to rise back up, I guess, it's going to be 3 guys like Tom Papley performing
Yeah.
well. So hopefully that's a sign of something to come. But pretty happy with that one. Now, Joe Danaher, I couldn't really put him in the breakout tracking because he's a bit older, but he's way more than a tip of the cap. So Joe Danaher, 120 points, 5 goals. Just super encouraging to see him score away from the Gabba, because I don't think he's put up a good score. I think he's either been huge at the Gabba and trash everywhere else. I reckon.
Yeah, he's copped it lately, hasn't he, for some of the performances.
Yeah, or
But-
just some of the
but it is
selfish
good
acts, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it is good to see him kick, a nice bag of 5 and score really, really well.
So I think he had 100 last week or 90-something last week, 120 this week, and I think he had an 80-plus score in round 2 as well.
Yeah,
So like I
credit
said,
where it's due. He copped it, but he's returned really, really well.
I think the thing with Brisbane though as well, they had some really tough matchups to begin with, and now they're kind of established themselves a bit, and they were pretty inconsistent with their performances as well. I think they're on a bit of a roll now.
They smashed North.
Yeah, and I think they are going to be a contender when push comes to shove at the end of the year. They got the finals experience. They're going to make the finals again. Well, they should make the finals again this year. And I think that people, if they're going to start kind of getting on a roll now, I think it's going to be 3 players like Joe Danaher coming good.
Hipwood,
And Gunston was out this week, which might have helped a little bit less attention, but I think sometimes he's good to take attention off them as well. So there's 2 ways you can look at that, I guess. But Joe Danaher, I think he's going to be a pretty handy player for coaches this year.
Yep, I agree.
Josh Battle had 117 points. It took 13 marks, which is always going to help your fantasy
unreal,
score.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think he is a player that is going to be like week to week proposition depending on opposition sides and what roles they have to play. I know that Collingwood have a pretty undermanned forward line at the moment. Well, I guess McStay went down, which really helped out, and so that probably allowed him to.
Yeah,
chop
they've got
few
a couple
holes
of
and
injuries as well.
Yeah.
And plus one of them sort of has to play as a ruckman at the moment.
Correct. McStay got injured, and then I think when Mason Cox comes back, he's going to be a full-time ruck. He won't be playing up forward as well. But yeah, so Collingwood are battling a little bit in that forward department, which may have helped him a little bit. I guess they're just battling in the bigs department, really. But yeah, still got the win on the weekend, obviously. But I think that was the factor as to why Josh Battle scored so well. Like I said, week-to-week proposition, if a matchup is favourable to him, he's definitely a player that can score pretty well.
Oh, he's got a really high ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Takes kick-ins as well and stuff like that, so gets a few extra points that way. Can
Massive
take a mark.
tank, yeah.
Absolutely. And we've seen in the past, like, he can play a lot of different roles. Like, he's been played on the wing and
can play
different
wing.
stuff like that. Yeah, so
drafted as a forward.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Now, again, he's going to have different roles week to week, and it's going to be hard to get some consistency, but has some potential there. Now, I think this is wrong because I've got Callum Wilkie here as 87 points, but I think that is a lot more than that. I'll double check what it was. I think it was 100 plus, and I'm pretty sure from memory, Wilkie has had 3 tons in a row. So let me just double check because I've definitely written down the wrong score here, I reckon. Callum Wilkie, where are you? What do you have? 117. Yeah, I don't know how I got that wrong. But yeah, so that's 3 in a row. That's automatic. Too good for the podcast.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. I mean, he's come so far. I remember
from
watching him
North Adelaide.
I remember him helping us win the flag. And
oh, you're a North man, eh?
Yeah.
I thought you were a Glenelg man for some reason.
Everyone thinks that.
Yeah,
I have a lot of a few friends that play for Glenelg and whatnot and living down that way. So, but yeah, North Adelaide fan. And seeing Wilkie win the flag in 2018, and then in the side be like Rosie, and Boyd Woodcock, and now he's skipper he's captain on the weekend. The Saints, he's ever since he's made the AFL, he's just looked so at home. Commands the back line, and he's a gun, really.
Last year I was talking up his consistency, but he's actually built that fantasy ceiling, and a lot of it's to do with the way St Kilda are playing. They tend to rely on kind of chopping out the footy on that half-back line.
Yeah, they cut it off before it gets deep. Yeah,
exactly, and then they try to attack from there. But I think a lot of the time on the weekend, he was like the last line of defence, and when the play kind of comes back really quickly, there's often that bomber into the forward line because there's just nothing there.
Yeah, the chaos kick.
And he was just there to
Mops
kind of cut it off each time. So
and
that was the kind of way they were playing, and he was the designated guy to actually do that. So it's really positive signs for his role. So I'm happy to make Wilkie too good for the podcast. It's a good story. Might come back at some stage.
Great story.
We'll make him 2G4P for now. 3 tons in a row. You can't really ignore that. So yeah, well done to Wilkie there. Apologies for getting your score wrong there. Ryan Burns, he should be in the breakout track. I don't know why I've got him down here, but he had 86 points. I think he's a player that I want to make too good for the podcast as well, just given the way he's scoring. He's got forward status, playing on the wing, just winning a heap of the footy, putting up some reasonable scores from week to week. So another one I'm pretty happy with. I don't think many people are going to be giving him up. One thing I will say is he could be a sell high candidate, given that he probably won't have forward status next year. So, do you think he's got another level to go in his scoring? What's your take?
Yeah, look, I didn't see him much as a junior, but from what I heard, he was a pretty decent scorer. And I think, he's one that's benefiting from Ross Lyon's system. Looks like he's really he's nailed his spot in the side. He's not a no-name, but I guess not many people would know much about him.
No.
But he's scoring really, really well.
If you're a diehard fantasy, a lot of people brought him in a couple of years ago when he debuted.
That's right.
And then he went out there next week, so everyone hated him.
But he's genuinely showing he can find the ball, so it is good to see.
I'm just not sure if his role is going to have, that wing role is just going to have that ceiling, that's all. So maybe he might be an 80 average mid going forward, you know what I mean? So that's just one thing to think about. You might be able to sell even higher or get a really good deal for him this year while he's got forward status. That's the only thing I'm thinking. But yeah, he's going to be a good one for the future anyway. Jake Waterman starting to put a few good performances together here and there. Kicked 4 goals on the weekend, kind of playing as that third leading target up forward, but was got off the chain the most out of him and Darling and was the other Oscar
Allen. Yep.
Yeah, so he just performed pretty well. I think, and Oscar Allen, put up a good score. Yeah, he got 96 points as well. So some of those young forwards at West Coast, given in a game that was, they're convincingly beaten, still scored pretty well though. So there's some good signs there.
Yeah, they're not getting much crack, like not the best opportunities. The ball movement's not great, but they're making the most of it. I mean, 8 goals between your 2 key forwards or 2 of your main key forwards is a really good return.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to be consistent enough to like filled with confidence for a while, but they're the type that you could stream if they have an early game or whatever, even though West Coast seem to play every Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, they're more Freo.
Or Saturday night. Yeah, so, yeah. But yeah, so either or, like, they're the type that you could actually get a decent score when they kick a few goals with. So, yeah. Daniel Howe's always been a consistent type player. 88 points, gets that outside role at North Melbourne now. Is doing pretty well at Hawthorn. It's actually kind of surprising that they dropped him, but when you think of the players that Hawthorn traded away and got rid of, it's probably not that surprising. But he's playing his role at North Melbourne, and I think he's a mid-only this year, so it's not amazing, but pretty handy M7 type thing, your last midfielder if you've got him, that's for sure.
He's obviously one of Clarko's favourites as well.
Oh, that's why I brought him across.
Brought him across, him and Shields, yeah,
that's it. And last one on this list is Will Snelling. So he had 90 points. A couple of years ago, he was very, very close to getting 2G4P status, I think. He was scoring pretty well. Plays that pressure forward role pretty well and gets large tackling numbers. Had 10 on the weekend. So
yeah, his tackling's he's always been a massive tackler.
And that's where his points come from.
100%. Yeah. You know, 40 of his 90 points are coming from tackles. So
yeah. It will hinder his kind of like if the ball's not in the forward line a lot, or you know he doesn't get on the end of a couple goals or whatever.
Yeah, where's his scoring come from?
Yeah, he does kind of get a few low scores. But looking at Essendon, awesome win on the weekend, a very unexpected win as well. So yeah, look, he might be in the side for a while, and they might be going okay.
Credit to Essendon. Yeah, jeez, they look alright.
It's just crazy what a new coach can do, doesn't it? You know, look at them, look at Ross Lyon, look at Craig McRae the week before. Yep. Ken Hinkley, you're on notice, mate. But I can't complain too much.
When has he not been on notice?
Ken's getting the wins at the moment, so I don't know, let it go. Tip of the caps. So these are the guys who scored well but don't expect it regularly. Oh, Lockie Schultz had back-to-back hundreds too, but I just don't. I don't know. Like Gold Coast, like it's one of the only teams I've seen like a forward, like for the Freo forward line get off the chain against. Really, so even though it was a tight game in the end.
It was really good.
It felt like the forwards were just scoring pretty freely for Fremantle. So
yeah, and they've been criticised. You know, I feel like for the longest time, Freo's never had a decent forward line. I've never been massive.
They haven't had one replacement.
But Schultz is a really good player. If he's playing in Victoria, probably gets more credit.
Yeah,
for
absolutely. Very important for their system.
He is. Yeah, he's very important.
He's always been a favourite of this podcast because we just don't think he's ever going to quite get there. But
good enough.
Connor Iden had 103 points. Didn't see a heap of this game, but like he's played the halfback line and like we were talking about before, it's pretty fantasy friendly line. Because we've seen even like Nick Haynes score pretty well this week.
So many points. Yeah, absolutely. How many points does that GWS backline scoring?
Yeah, so if you've got
I reckon even Sam Taylor was hauling in the marks early.
Well, he's shown potential in the past. He does take a few grabs back there. He's probably one of the better taller defenders back there fantasy wise. But if you look at the numbers, so I guess Cumming had 113, Iden had 103, Whitfield had 86, Ash had 83, Sam Taylor had 77.
Yeah,
it's quite a few. And Nick Haynes was probably the loser this week. He didn't score as well, but still scored 72. So
as a back six or whatever it is, that's awesome score.
Yeah, so you can kind of play those GWS defenders with a bit of confidence.
Yeah,
I think
one of them's going to, at least a couple are going to score pretty well.
Let's say they were playing Hawthorn though as well, so maybe that had something to do with
it. Yeah, true. Iden's not going to ton every week, is he?
So probably a tip of the cap there. Same with Duday. Depends what role he's playing, but like I said, that Crows back line was the best I've ever seen it. We've seen it since probably 2018 type thing, 2019,
2017,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were scoring pretty well. So, Duday, if he doesn't have to completely lock down and can manage to get a few marks and things like that.
Thank God he's not having to play a key role.
Exactly.
But I mean, it'll only take an injury to Butts or Murray, and he probably will be.
Yeah, not fantasy relevant at all, but Murray's actually been pretty good this year.
Oh, he's been great.
Yeah.
So I still reckon Butts is playing a little bit injured, but Murray's been amazing. Really good.
Kind of come out the blocks. And that's helped Duda as well. So he might be a streaming option, but at the moment I'm still tipping the cap. Same with Eric Hipwood. Like 4 goals versus North Melbourne. Like at least with Danaher, we've seen a few other big scores like around him. Yeah. I think with that one we just want to see a bit more consistency with Eric Hipwood. Don't you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Jayden Laverty, 92 points. I think they took out Melbourne took out a key forward. They took out Ben Brown, didn't they? Late replacement because they thought it was going to be wet or something.
Yep.
And I think that helped.
And it was.
Yeah. Well, it was, but I think that helped Laverty just not have to kind of play his lockdown and pop in a few holes and stuff like that. So I'm tipping the cap there. Same with Sava Radagalia, like doing a similar type thing. Playing against West Coast. Like, again, the key forwards weren't terrible, but in that first quarter, like, their kicks were so wayward going inside. They were just like, it was like they spotting him up. Like, he was just popping into the hole.
They found him every time.
Yeah, so it was, bit annoying for people that had or don't have a Sava, because if you're playing against him, you've been scoring shit all year. And then we had 70 last week. So maybe he's on the rise. I don't know, but I'm tipping the cap still to
He
Sava.
definitely looks good as a defender, though, I will say that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of suits him, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
When it kind of runs off.
I know a lot of teams, I think Port even wanted him.
Yeah, definitely.
But that'd be pretty rapt they kept him, to be honest.
I wish we could get another key defender, but we'll see what happens there.
He'd be really good at Port side.
We tried, but didn't want to. And Cody Wakeman, 81 points, 4 goals, and a bit of an embarrassing moment.
Yeah. There
was a lot of...
that was funny.
A lot of TikToks
Poor
and stuff
bloke.
made after that.
That's shocking. He's kicked 4.
Yeah.
Ouch. In first game back. But he is, on all seriousness, he's super important to what the Dogs do. But that was a funny moment.
Absolutely, it was. All right, we'll get on to a few fossil watches. So some older players. Older players, for those who haven't played Keeper Leagues much, you can get the veterans a bit cheaper, because if they're going to be retiring the next 2 years, you can generally get guys that can score higher scoring for a lesser player, purely on the fact that they're worried about them retiring the next few years and not getting anything for them. So for you to talk about this week, Ed Kerno, 107 points. So...
Yeah, he was one of Carlton's better players, definitely.
It just came out of nowhere. Like, I was even surprised that he was still on a list, to be honest.
Yeah. He's a super trainer, so I reckon that's why they're keeping him on a bit.
Probably just to motivate the boys a bit. But he's had a couple big scores. I reckon it's his second ton for the year. And what's
good on him.
interesting, Matt Kennedy has just been kind of removed for him. And I think it's because Ed Kerno can just play that accountable role really well.
Yeah,
and he's at that stage of his career where he just doesn't give a shit about his own game. He's purely all team type thing.
He's so the most team orientated you can possibly get, but he's still scoring well, so that's good.
Yeah, well, if you're given a job marking a player and you're doing a tag and roll, whatever, or just playing an accountable role, you're going to get a few tackles and things like that.
And he runs like he'd have to be one of the best runners in the AFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the best runner in his side though. After Ollie Hollands has come in, but
he's just fit. Like he can do it.
Super
good tank.
fit.
David Swallow had 125 points. Now, this was on the back of 3 goals, but I've actually been just not trying hard, but he's a player I'd like in my side, because I think before this week he was someone I could probably get a bit cheap. I've been throwing a few trade offers out for him. I haven't been able to get him, but I think he's very well capable of an 80 average. And as a mid-only player, that's not great. But if you were to sit him at your M7, kind of like Rory Sloane type thing, I think he's one that you could sit at your M7.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You score your 80 most weeks.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. Like, I'm trying to get a few of those players just for depth in my side.
Yeah.
So if you're
reasonably consistent.
Yeah. If you're a contending side, I reckon just throw a few trade-offs out for someone like David Swallow. Maybe wait till he serves up a 56 next week or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you can go close to that 80 average if everything goes his way, especially if a new coach comes in the frame in a few weeks. They might rely on a bit more.
Jeez.
I don't know. And Jason Johannesson had 98 points. Moved back to that halfback role this season, and that's been serving him pretty well, I think. Given that he's listed as a forward, he's definitely one I'd want to own at the moment, given he can score 80 pretty easily.
He can,
on that halfback role. And it feels like they want to play him this year. He's probably only 1 or 2 bad games away from getting the arse, though.
Yeah. I mean, he probably is, but
once he's in there, though, he scores okay.
He can score well. He sort of always has been able to score pretty well. And he's one they do look to use him off halfback. It's sort of like Jermaine Jones. They really value his run and his foot skills. So he's a high made his game player. So he's important to what the Dogs do.
Yeah. We'll talk about a few scoring bumps, so just a few situations that could impact a few players over next week. These were just off the top of my head quickly today. I reckon I'm still feeling the effects of Saturday, though, so the brain wasn't working heaps well. But I think Mason Cox should return in the next week or so, and just given the McStay went down.
Yeah, given the situation, it looks he could actually score right.
If he plays a whole... I don't think we've ever seen Mason Cox as a sole ruckman for an entire game.
No, he's always sort of been either the second ruck or he's been the lead ruck with heaps of chop outs. So I reckon he's going to have to ruck for the whole game pretty much.
Yeah. They got Frampton. Frampton's another one that could benefit from this situation as well. Depends if he comes back, but one of those two, I reckon, is going to have some handy scores over the next few weeks. I reckon. So just have a think about that. I'm not even sure how long it stays out for, but it didn't look good with the way he got subbed out.
I think he's out for I think he's out for 6 to 8. Could be wrong.
That's not good. Yeah. Could be a few opportunities there with that injury. Jai Simpkin, I don't think he's going to miss a heap, but he might miss a couple of weeks. But you might just be able to ride the wave of Tom Powell or Will Phillips. So we're closer to seeing a debut from George Wardlaw.
Yeah, I hope so. I know he's been on sort of restricted minutes in the VFL. Yeah. But I think so. Why not?
What's he coming back from? Is it ACL?
No, he's come back from soft tissue.
That's
I
right.
think hamstrings. he's had them for ages.
He was injured a lot last year.
Starting in the VFL obviously is the right call. Get some game time into him. Get some endurance in the legs, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it won't be long before we see him unleashed.
Yeah, so we might see him soon.
It'll be he won't play heaps of midfield.
Yeah.
Given North's midfield looks
it's okay,
decent.
yeah.
It's probably their best line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing him.
Going back to the Simpkin injury, though, I think Powell or Phillips might get a few extra minutes in there, which might serve them as well over the next couple of weeks if he's out. And I think with Reece Stanley injured, John Segler might come to the frame, who's not a terrible ruckman, but Blitzarv's don't think Blitzarv did a heap of rucking on the weekend, but scored pretty well regardless. So, one of those guys, whoever kind of takes over that ruck mantle for Reece Stanley could actually just be handy. So, have a think about that one. Just a few injuries on the weekend that might affect a few things. All right, we'll finish off the show with some listener questions. A lot of the questions were the same this week, but we'll get stuck into what we've got here. At MDub18, with DPP mania hitting over the last 2 seasons, in deeper leagues, has fantasy become positionless outside the ruck spot? Maybe something to consider with drafts moving forward. I don't know if I'd agree with that. Like, I needed it. I'm in not a super deep league, but 12 teams with 32 players on each side. I think with a few more, about 38 players on each side. So a pretty deep league. And I think all of us kind of needed still some DPPs. Like I was saying before I had a pretty shallow midfield. So Dawson getting midfield, even though, I don't know. I reckon back in the day, no one cared if someone got mid status. But I'm finding good scoring mids harder to come by these days. So I think Dawson was handy with that, given that I seem to find a heap of reasonable scoring defenders these days. So I don't think they're irrelevant. What do you reckon?
No, I don't think they're irrelevant. I think it just reflects, the real footy as well.
Yeah.
Players are playing, the need for flexibility is super important in the modern game. So,
yeah. I think the gap between the good scorers and the shitter scorers is kind of lessening though as well. Probably finding a few midfielders dropping down a little bit and stuff like that. Like not heaps, but just a little bit, and it probably just gives it that impression that it's probably not just as important. But I think depending on your side and depending on your league, there's still scope for DPP being handy. I have no issues with any. I think that leagues they're pretty consistent. Like with AFL fantasy, that it's 35% at a starting position. And not just some arbitrary gut feel or what they're considered as in the media, like it was in Ultimate Footy. So ultimately, I think it's pretty handy to know, if someone's getting DPP status, it's a given stat that they're using, and it's not just a gut feel call.
No, so it's actually data based.
Yeah. So I like that because at least it's consistent.
Has to be. Yeah. You can't leave it up to the eye.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be inconsistent. So let's move on to @Major Van Bam. He's asking, is Connor Nash worth picking up? And I said yes earlier, just as a streaming loophole option. You could do a lot worse given I'm finding it hard to field mids anyway, good mids. So Connor Nash, definitely worth picking up, I think. And will Chase Jones keep getting mid time? So it's on the wing, but
absolutely, wing time. But he's playing the best footy of his life, so absolutely.
I reckon they keep picking him. Crows are in that spot where you need to just get backing your players in because they're just going to grow in confidence as they do it.
The worst thing for Chase Jones right now would be to be dropped after a couple of down games. He just needs a good run at it now. And the other thing with the Crows, I guess, is that there's no real injuries to come back into that midfield.
Yeah.
Sam Berry is one that sort of finds himself outside of the lineup at the moment.
Now, an interesting thing I saw on the weekend was Sam Berry and a couple of the reserves Crows players, I can't actually remember who they were, but it was definitely Sam Berry, was lighting up in the hot food line on the outer at Adelaide Oval. I thought he'd have catered food or deli was, but he was actually lining up with the people for a bucket of chips.
You're out in the reserves.
You don't get treated special.
No, not in gather around.
I like
You've got to be with the people.
Yeah, I like that philosophy of the Crows. If you're not in the team, you're out.
Make him out.
You're out with the people. I love it.
But I think Berry will find his way back in the side eventually, but I think it won't affect Jones. He's got
outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fine. Yep. At Maramikey, I can't read. And Anam Mikey with a bunch of numbers. Sorry about that. I had the first pick for waiver claims this week, and I'm in need of a forward. Would you take Johannesson? And what do you think he averages here in his new role? Like I said before, I think he's worth taking given that forward status, definitely. And what I think he averages from here, he can go at the 80. We've seen it before, and he's playing this role. His issue is just job security, really. But he's not, there's probably worse dogs at the moment.
Yeah, so, I don't mind the pick. I think he can.
Yeah, it's worth a punt. I think if there's not much else you can do in your league, depends what other options you got. But yeah, I think that's a reasonable call to use a waiver wire pick on him for sure. At McGrath, DT. Who is the most game-changing pod-relevant DPP from this lot, and who is the most underrated? Oh, okay, pod-relevant. I didn't read that bit, but I think Bailey Smith, given he's got forward status, like that's going to help people definitely. Ben Keys, I think, is a big one. We mentioned at the top, but like he's kind of come back to almost being in podcast range, like back to the podcast range, given he's only scoring around the 80s and stuff like that. But now he's got forward status. Like, you definitely take that. Like, I'm wrapped with it. I've got him in one league. I'm pretty wrapped with him.
Yeah,
forward
you'd be
status.
happy with that. Yeah, definitely.
Throw him forward a little bit there. I think one of the underrated calls, I reckon Callan Ward getting forward status, I think it was. Yeah, that's underrated. Like, given he's can go around the 80 mark pretty easily, I think he's going to be a pretty handy one there, and just thrown in the midfield if there's a few injuries or whatever.
Yeah,
well.
or if, like Tom Green might miss this week.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
I think
probably get more mid-time.
I think Callan Wood, and I do like Jai Caldwell long term as well. Like, he's not going to be far off getting back in the midfield. I know it's a very deep midfield, but like I said, takes an injury or two or a suspension or something like that, could pop here and there. So Jai Caldwell's another one I like. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Under an hour this week, 55 minutes I think it is, even less. So I'm pretty happy with that. Well done.
Done well.
Short, sharp and shiny.
That was good.
Yeah, efficient. That's what we do. Get around us on our socials at Keeper League Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and TikTok. Get around our sponsors Manscaped. Use Keeper20 at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Also get around Game Day Squad, our other sponsor. Create, coach and compete there at gamedaysquad.com.au. Also check out my live stream on Wednesday nights. I open 6 packs every Wednesday to see if I can improve my team. So quick 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Good fun chatting with the fantasy community, opening some packs we're doing. You been watching a few of those?
I've been tuning in.
Yeah, good on you. Oh,
Good watch.
Yeah, good. They're kind of fun. It's always fun when I pull a big one.
Something to do.
Yeah, had a few stinkers this week, so I wasn't getting too excited, but when I pull a big one, damn do I get excited. And yeah, if you want to support the podcast, sign up as a member. Anyways, thanks heaps, Tommy, for coming on the podcast this
Pleasure,
week.
mate.
Talk to you
always
probably
enjoy it.
Probably in a few weeks, get you back on.
Yep,
No worries.
absolutely.
Cool. All right, see you people. Take it easy. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Sweet. Nah, easy, mate. All good.
You are heading...
It's good. It's good pod, mate. It's like it's just fun. Like,
Yeah.
It's not ridiculously like, I don't know. It's just good because you chat about how they actually play, not just numbers, and
Yeah,
it's good balance. I don't know, it's a good pod.
It's, I find it super
good
hard
listen.
to have a weekend like I do where I don't watch heaps.
Yeah, it makes it harder, doesn't it?
Like a few of those, I was like, oh shit, we've got still streaming. See you, people.